Hi gang, Trevor Beck here. I am the Google Evangelist here at MacEwan University, and today we're going to be talking about organizing your Google Drive. Now, as the Google Apps for Education is one of the services that we get here at MacEwan University, which means we have unlimited space. So you can throw in all sorts of files, put them in whatever you want. But one of the things that people tend to run into is trying to figure out, how do I find my files? How should I organize them? When we start sharing files and folders with people, how does that affect others and that? So we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit and get some information out to you guys on that. We're going to start off by looking at the Google Drive and just some of the basic interfaces of how to place things in different folders, what kind of information you can get from Google Drive, and then we'll move on from there. I'm hoping that we'll have one of our guests from Edmonton Public Schools joining us a little bit later, in which case they have been using these tools for 3 or 4 years now, so they have like hundreds and thousands of files that they deal with, and I'm hoping that they'll be able to give us some ideas of how they organize stuff. Before we go down that path, though, I would just like to have our two guests that are joining me introduce themselves. John, if you want to start, please.
Hi, I'm John Coulson. I'm lab supervisor, and I teach in the computer science department here at MacEwan.
Your turn, Jean.
Hi, I'm Jean Duncan. I teach in the Hearing Aid Practitioner program here at MacEwan University.
And John's been working with the Google Apps for quite a while. Jean got introduced to it probably about 3 months ago and went absolutely crazy loading stuff up and sharing files and stuff. So she's turning into quite the Google Drive fiend. So hopefully she'll have some things to tell us about what's working, what's not working, and we'll be able to address that as well. Today we're using a showcase app, which is the piece that allows me to put in links into into our presentation on the side that you guys can click on. It's the first time using it, so hopefully we'll be able to get some feedback from you on how that works. The first one that's up right now, though, is the Let's Talk Questions. If you have a question, you click on that link, it'll open up a document in a new tab, or you can put it in a new window. It's up to you to move it around. It is a Google Doc that's basically open to the world, so anyone can go in and ask any questions and put them in there. And during the course of the presentation, we'll go take a quick look to see what questions are popping up, that kind of thing. Okay, let's get started. So what I want to do first is I'm going to do a quick screen share here, and we'll move along with that. I'm going to screen share my whole desktop here, so this may look kind of wonky for a second till I move it around. And again, guys, or John, if you see something happening, let me know. I'd appreciate that. So this is a typical, or maybe not typical, but this is my Google Drive. Google Drive is just like anything else. It allows you to put in folders and files. You can move stuff around. But what I wanted to do is give you an idea of exactly how you can get that information and some of the stuff that doesn't really stand out when you first start making use of it. By default, most of the content gets stored in the top level, which is called My Drive, and we can see that up here. Whoops, my mouse just went really wonky. There we go. That's kind of weird. I'm not sure why it's doing this. So the My Drive is where most of our stuff, whenever we try and create something, typically ends up getting stored at the top level. We can add new items easy enough by just going and clicking the New button here. The New button allows us to create folders. It allows us to upload files. So if we have those Microsoft documents we want to upload, I can upload one of those. I can upload a folder of items. And just so you know, that only works in Google Chrome. The folder upload and loading the contents does not work with IE, Safari, Firefox, only in Google Chrome. And of course, here's where we go to create our different types of documents, our Google Docs, our Sheets, and our slides. One of the important things about this is when I select an item here, it's going to be presenting me with some different options. Boy, my drive is slow today. All of a sudden, I restarted and everything. Up at the top here, we can see all sorts of different options. Some of them show up only when something's selected. Some of them will only be there when you select. Sorry, some of them will only be there when stuff isn't selected. So when I click on My Drive and I deselect something, you'll notice stuff disappears. This stuff in the top right here, it takes a look at the drive on a very basic level. This shows me how I can view it, whether it's as these line items that I have here, or what they call a grid view. And the grid view, of course, allows us to see things as big chunks of blocks. Wow. Come on. So we can see how the folders are kind of organized like that, and the files are down there as big blocks with previews. I personally am not a big fan of the grid view. I actually like going the other route, so I always leave it stuff like this. I can organize my information A through Z, and there's all sorts of different options there. We can sort by not only the name, but when it was last modified, when it was last edited by me, when it was last opened by me, in this case by name. These same kind of options are available right here at the top level. So right now I'm sorting my stuff by name. I can sort by owner and last modified as well. And I often will switch back and forth using these items because if I'm working on a document, I want it'll show up at the very top usually. The get info here is a really important one, the detail stuff, and sometimes that's on or off. And what that will do is give you more information off to the side here of what you've got selected. So for example, when I select this piece here, delete at will, the details is going to tell me what it is, so whether it's what kind of document folder, the location, who owns it, dates it was last modified, and as well an opportunity to put in a description. And this is actually kind of a cool feature that we'll talk about a bit later. There's also the activity for the item that I've selected. So it will tell me if someone's moved something, what is the drive that's been, or what's been deleted here. And if I highlight a specific item, like a single file or something like that, I'll get the activity in there as well, which will include some of the fact that it was edited or updated by different individuals. So I can see who's been working on a file just by highlighting it and looking at the activity. The other thing that's really important is the settings. And this is the global settings for Google Drive. You can leave the new drive, which I don't recommend, but the keyboard shortcuts is really handy, as well as the help items. And in settings is also where you would go to tell Google that, hey, every time I load up an Office document, I want you to automatically translate it into a Google Doc. So overall, that's what our Google Drive is going to be doing. I'm just going to pop into here. Google recently went through some changes about 6 months ago and trying to make things more like you would on your desktop. So to open up a folder here, I actually have to double click it to get inside it. Now I've got two items in here. One is a spreadsheet that I'm going to mark to delete, and one is a file as a JPEG. So here is, remember I have that information open. There's my details or my activity. So it shows me when I move stuff around. There's actually a preview of the item that I can see and who owns it and when it was last modified. Then there's these extra little items that are come up here. There's a link if I wanted to get a link so I could send it to somebody. Keeping in mind that this does not override the sharing. So if my file here is only going to be shared with people within MacEwan and I try and send a link to someone outside of MacEwan, that's not going to work. This item here, of course, as we've talked about before, allows us to go and actually decide who is going to share these items. And we've talked about sharing and stuff before, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Preview is always fun. Instead of having to actually open it up, this will give me a quick preview window of what the information is that I'm looking at here. And I'm just going to close this eventually. There we go. Of course, I can delete that file. And there's also these other items that are available to me. And these are the ones that are really kind of cool. So open with refers to if I have another application that will work. And by application, I mean something that's stored within the Google land, not something on your desktop. But there are other applications that we can load up to use through our Google Drive. And I'll be doing a session about extensions and apps probably in a couple of weeks. The one thing that's really important, add a star. Add a star is like making a favorite. So when I add a star here, regardless how deep down the path of a file hierarchy it is, I can go to my section here called starred, click on that, and it will give me all those items that I've gotten starred, which should include the file we were working on. I can actually just go to last modified as I've done before. And there's my different files here based on the dates and stuff. Does that make sense to everyone? John, make sense? Just nod your head if you don't have to mute yourself. Okay? All right, John G. All right, we got that. So that's the basic overall look of what our of the drive is doing. So some people always kind of wonder, like, how do I find things? How do I store things? How do I organize things? And there's different ways that people like to organize information. But the one really best thing about Google Drive is the fact that it's searchable, just like you would normally search for any other item in a Google search. Up in the top here, we can just go in and type in any word that we want. And that word can be either part of the title of the document, or it can be part of the content. So for example, I have a document that I use, and in it I have the word kitty. So I'm going to try and type in kitty here. And in this online ad tagging, I actually have a field in there where I've actually typed in the word kitty. So you can do quick searches. So if you can at least remember something about the file as far as the name of the person, or sorry, the title or the content or anything like that, you can add that in there as well. Now, do you remember back when we were talking about the details of a file, there was the description in there. So I'm going to show you that. Google will also search those descriptions. So what you could do is use the description field as kind of like a tagline. Just waiting for it to finish loading. Oh, I've zoomed in a bit, so we won't see the details quite as much. Let me zoom out here a bit. So where it says add a description, I could add in a description, but I could also add in taglines or keywords if I wanted. So for example, somewhere on my desk or in my hard drive, I put in the word pudding in the file. Let's go search for that. Oh, 3Ds will not help. So there's a file here. I'm just going to highlight this. And we'll scroll down here a bit. Oh, sorry. That's actually, the word pudding's actually inside that file. This is the one I did. Pudding in the description. So quite often when I'm working on documents with users or something like that, I will throw their names in there. I will throw in maybe the name of the project I'm working on so that I can find information in there quickly and easily. The search function also allows you to kind of get finite in what you want to search for. So off to the right here in the drop-down menu, I can say, you know what, I want to search for whatever text, but I only want to look at folders or documents or spreadsheets. I can also select owners. Who is it? Who is it owned by? Whether it's me, someone else. Opens with whatever app. So I'm looking for specifically opening up with a one of these other different apps here. So I want a file that maybe opens up with Concept Board, which is a brainstorming kind of application. Those are some of the quick and dirty search filters available to you. If you click on the Learn More, you can find a whole bunch of other stuff. And there's like, I can search by to, so if I've shared it with someone, if I've been shared it from somebody, all sorts of different advanced search functions. So if you get the chance, I would suggest pulling up this search function, click on that, and then go take a look at what else you can learn there. I would do that myself, but considering how slow this machine's working today, I think we're going to pass on that. Okay. So we've talked about creating different documents. If I'm in this organized drive folder, if I'm in there, and I go and I create anything from the new side, it will automatically be created in this folder. So I can see the path here. If I go ahead, if I'm in organizing drive, anything I create under the new here should show up in here. Doesn't always, but it should usually open up and put stuff in there. Moving files is pretty straightforward. If you've ever used some of the old Windows machines, or even some of the newer Mac ones, if you go in and off to the left here, I just click on this arrow, it's going to give me a drop down of all the contents of folders inside my drive. Imagine, if you will, though, that it does it much faster than you're seeing now. Here we go. So I can go down and keep on going down whatever path or whatever depth I want to go to. Then I just click and hold on this and click and drag it over to the folder that I want to go to. So you'll notice how it highlights like that. I can just click and drag and move that item over to the folder I want it to go into. And you can see it trying to do that action right now. So from the top level, it's fairly easy to go ahead and move stuff around. But sometimes I'm working on a document and I want to move it while I'm working on the document. And we can actually do that as well. As soon as my file floats up, there we go. So let's take a look at, let's look into, I'm going to just move stuff around here a bit because you don't need to see names. So up here you'll notice this folder here, and you'll notice the star. So when I've been working on something, I can star it just like I did before, or unstar it. But what's really important is this folder. When I click on it, it's going to show me first where this is contained. So right now it's an organizing drive. So if I want to move it, I can click on Organize. It's going to bring up a window. And without having to go to the top level of my drive, I can actually go in, select a different folder. By clicking on it, you'll notice a check box marks there, and I just hit move, and that will automatically move my files into that folder. So as you're working on stuff, you can still organize your information into different folders. Any questions on that, guys? Nope, thank you. Removing files is pretty much the same thing. I would highlight an item and I would hit delete. Now, removing files is interesting because it's kind of like the old days of using computers where you still have to empty the trash for it to actually delete. So if I take this file and I remove it, what it's going to do is take it and put it into my trash can. I'm not going to do that because we'll be here all day the way this machine's going. But it will. The trash can is at the very bottom. It'll move all the whatever I put into that trash can. That stuff remains in that trash can that I own until I delete it. So anything that I own that I remove goes into that trash can, but it stays there. And part of the practice that a lot of people talk about is don't empty your trash, especially because we don't have any kind of limit as far as storage space. Before we used to do that, right? I mean, when we had smaller computers with limited hard drive space and that, we would always have to be emptying our trash. But now we don't have that problem. And I mean, what's worse than 2 months down the road going, oh, I shouldn't have deleted that and trashed that thing and emptied it because now I need that file. So if you throw it in the trash, it's there, it just stays there, it's out of sight. So you don't have to worry about it. So for a lot of people on our work side, I'd suggest don't empty the trash. If you are on your personal hard drive, you still have 15 gigs of hard drive space, which is a long time to fill that up. If that does happen, you can go in and empty your trash by all means and move stuff around. But for us, I'd suggest don't empty the trash. Now, what happens if you do empty the trash? If you empty the trash, it's completely gone from you. You cannot get access to it. However, if it's important and it's urgent, it is available to the administrators for 25 days. So if you've deleted a folder full of photos and you need those photos, you've got 25 days to get in touch with tech support, who will put in a ticket to get a hold of our administrators, and they will bring those items back for you, and you'll end up having it show back up in your drive again. However, after 25 days, not even the administrators, not even Google can be able to bring those files back. They are gone. So again, for removing files, I would suggest don't empty the trash. The other reason I don't suggest empty the trash is when people are sharing folders with you. Now, this is something that I recently discovered. It's kind of scary in a lot of ways, that if I have a folder containing a bunch of files and I share it with John and Jean, and then one day Jean says, you know, I don't want this file, these 3 files, I'm going to remove them. What ends up happening is those files actually get removed from everybody. Even though I own them, they will disappear from me. I won't be able to see them in the folder they were originally in because Jean, whom I've given access to edit the folder and its contents, has decided to remove stuff. If she was to trash that and completely trash it, it would disappear from her, but it does not get deleted from me because I still own it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to find it because part of the problem is that it's now been removed from the folder, it's been removed from my drive, and it's what's called an orphaned file. I won't go into a lot of details. I have a document for you guys to look at after the session that talks about orphaned files. Basically, as the owner, I am still the only one that can delete those files, but unfortunately, by sharing a folder and having those files removed, I can lose where they are supposedly housed. Housed? Stored. Let's leave it that way. Jean, did that make sense to you guys? Okay. Removing function. Okay. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to do at this point, was just kind of explain how to go about and moving the files and folders around. The other thing that a lot of people have to try and come to grips with is where you store and how you store and that kind of stuff. The biggest problem we have is, I'm going to turn off my screen sharing now, so we'll bring me back in. The biggest problem that we end up having is we've got folders that we create at the webmaster level for all the different areas. So if you're going to be doing a folder for your area, please come talk to me first. I'll create a folder, give you rights to it. It only ensures that if something should happen, me as the webmaster can get in and help you find some files. If I'm not included in that kind of stuff, then I can't really troubleshoot and help you. But the problem that we have is as we get access to more and more files, I may have a folder called templates, John may have a folder called templates, Jean may have a folder called templates. If you go searching for templates, you're going to get all sorts of stuff. So one of the things that people tend to do is when they're naming their files, they actually will have a naming convention that includes their department. So for example, where it says certificate of attendance, ideally I should have web services _ certificate of attendance. So that way, when I look for certificate of attendance or certificate, it's not going to get mixed up with John's certificate that he creates when he's doing his teaching, or someone else might have a certificate. So you'll find some people go through that path and try and name stuff. Some people get really anal about how their folders are structured. Me, I kind of throw them in. I have a projects folder that I share with my group. I put in the name of the project, and then I just stuff everything in the folder. Because quite frankly, for the most part, I just sit here and I use my search function more than I do anything else. Guys, you want to take your mute off and maybe we can have a quick discussion on what you do?
Okay.
Let's start with you.
Actually, I have some questions. I've been using the Google Drive to allow students to share assignments with me at particular times. Problem that I have now is that in my shared with folder, I've got a ton of stuff from a couple of years. How do I manage that? Sometimes the students have given me edit access. Generally, I ask them just to share it with me for either comment or just to view, but sometimes they forget and give me the edit access. So I don't need them anymore. I don't want them anymore. How can I manage them?
Well, my first thought is there's a couple of different ways. When they're shared with you, have you added them to your My Drive yet?
No, they're sitting and shared with me.
Okay, so I think if you've been given edit access, so you have access to edit that as well, you can go in and just unshare yourself.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's kind of one of the things that I'm kind of looking at now is as files come in and people access them or give me access to stuff, instead of just removing that person or that file from my drive, because I am afraid that we'll lose those files and they get moved over, I just would go in and just take my name off the share list. That means, though, that in the future, if the student makes a comment, if they want something else to add to it, or have you add some information, they're going to have to reshare it with you. That make sense?
Yeah, excellent.
Okay. I don't know about the shared with me if I would be as concerned about that, because you haven't added that to my drive yet.
No, but when I go to mark new assignments that have come in, sometimes it's a little difficult to find what I really want to find.
Yeah, maybe offline you and I can sit down and we can go through some of the different scenarios, because I think, if you remove yourself from the shared with me,
Right.
which is different than my drive,
Right.
I would think that that would just remove that shared with me, because you haven't added to my drive yet. But quite frankly, I don't know. This is something I just discovered, and talking with a lot of other education trainers, they're all going, really? As well. So it's something that a lot of us are going, oh, we did not realize that.
Okay.
Again, for anyone else that's watching, if you're interested, there's the link at the whatever site it's on. You can go ahead and put in a question there. Jean, any questions on your part, or how are you organizing your stuff?
Um, I use our course code to identify everything. Our course code is HAPR, so I put HAPR at the beginning of everything I do, and that's a format that I used previous to using Google Drive as well. So it was very straightforward just to continue that. So it'll say HAPR if it's a course 114 course outline, or if it's something expense form or whatever. So it's all identified by the program first.
Excellent.
And
That's
that solves that question. I do have a question though. When someone shares something with you, do you recommend moving it to your drive? We have some databases that we share between myself and program advisor and some other faculty, and we all update it on a fairly regular basis. I own the document, should they be putting it into their Google Drive or just worked off the shared when they see it in what's shared with me?
okay. So when you say database, are you talking a spreadsheet?
Yes, a spreadsheet.
Okay, yeah, just want to clarify for other people watching. There is no database function within with Google, at least as far as Google Apps. It's just the way that we use spreadsheets. So what happens is with the shared with me. Actually, you know what? Let's just do a quick screen share and we'll address that. Okay, can we see my my screen there? I assume.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so what happens with the shared with me, this means that all these files are people who have shared something with me. So I'm typically not the owner. This is my personal account, so I mean, don't worry too much about that. But it does not show up in my drive where I typically go looking for stuff. It all depends on if you're comfortable with remembering that, hey, I've got a folder over here that I can go in and I can get access to that folder, then that's not a problem. Go ahead and do that. What I do though is, because I like to have everything in mind, so like maybe this Chromebook here folder that I've shared with from my personal side, maybe it's going to be part of my organizing drive folder. So I want that content showing up in here. That's when I would add it to the drive, so that I have it organized in the same place. So it's still the same information whether I double click here, or let's just go up here and add it to my drive. So now it says, where do you want to put this? And I'll put it in my organizing drive. It's still going to be in both places. Okay, I'll go into here, and there's the folder. So it's just how you work and how you organize your stuff. If I've got a project and there's two people who are contributing to that project and they're sharing stuff, I'll want to put it all together. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions? Well, love when that happens. I'm looking at our question sheet. I don't see any questions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to be pushing through using the Showcase app a link to the document that I've been working with. It's a Google Doc. You guys should be able to go in and view it. I'll probably update some stuff in there, but it's got some really helpful links to what we've been talking about. It's also got some other information, a little bit more on the sharing and stuff. What's really important is, please make sure that you take a look at the document on orphaned files. We never got around to talking about it, and maybe I'll actually going to do a session totally on how to use agendas and stuff. There is a link to a sample agenda document there. We'll take a look at doing agendas in the future. I think that's something that'll be fun enough that we could actually do just one whole session on agendas. So if anyone wants to have any other questions, feel free to contact me here at MacEwan, BeckT@MacEwan.ca. You've got my phone number. Anyone that's publicly viewing this, you can contact me through my Google Plus or whatever way you got here. As well, if you've got any questions, I'll leave the document open there for a little while. Other than that, thanks for joining us, and thank you to my guests, and we'll keep an eye out for whatever the next session is going to be, probably in a couple of weeks, on, I think we'll do Chrome extensions and applications. So if you're a Chrome user, we're going to make you into a really power user with some really cool add-ons and stuff. And that's everything, so thank you very much for joining me. Talk to you guys later.